Welcome back to Desert Cigar Reviews. Wyatt with me, and as well as our guest reviewer that brought us the Anejo, Arturo Fuente that reviewed earlier, Steve. But today we're coming at you with the Padilla Artemis in Toro. It's coming in with it's a Habano, a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper, I believe. It's nice firm pack. It's a boxed press, which is done real nice. Seams are almost invisible, not a lot of veins. It's very smooth in texture. To me, it looks like a very milk chocolatey, almost like it's not as dark as like a candy bar, but maybe it's the color of coffee with creamer in it.
Yeah,
it's really creamy looking, very nice. For me, off the wrapper, I'm getting a very vanilla caramel smell, very pleasant. Yeah, that's really all I'm getting is that vanilla caramel on the wrapper. And the foot's a different story. I still get that vanilla caramely, but it's got another note in there that we've been discussing that we really can't identify. But Wyatt, you could better articulate it.
you know, I took the label off, but beautiful looking cigar. I've got a couple of stems, but other than that, the seams are invisible. I agree. Very much a plain caramel coming off the wrapper, but on the foot, I've been trying to think of what it is, and that caramel is definitely there. I don't get the vanilla so much, but it's very unique. It's sort of like a Werther's original, maybe a caramel apple. It's caramel with something. Maybe as I smoke the cigar, I'll figure out what it is. But it's a good-looking cigar. These Padilla Artemises, I've had a few of the Padillas. I really enjoyed the Connecticut. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this Artemis tastes like.
Thank you, Wyatt. This is a very good-looking cigar. It has a really nice sheen to it. The foot is a bit interesting. When I first smelled this cigar, kind of in the middle of the cigar, it has a very interesting flavor, and I think it kind of smells like a freshly cleaned hotel room when you first walk in, and it's air conditioned, and it's the middle of summer. I don't know if it's the dry cleaning of the sheets or how they clean the rooms, but it kind of smells like a freshly cleaned hotel room, as odd as that might be to say as a describing factor, but I'm looking forward to lighting it up and seeing what the cigar has to offer.
Well, let's get it cut up, lit up, and see what the first draw is.
Yeah, right away, before you even take a taste of the cigar, you can smell that caramel. Definitely a lot of caramel. And like I was saying at the foot, there's something else that's there, and I can also smell that when I light the cigar. So it'll be interesting to see what that taste is.
Well, right off for me, my draw is relatively loose, but not too bad. My first flavor is I'm just getting that caramel. Just a heavy caramel in the front of my tongue. Finish is not too long. Kind of leaves a very dry, very dry. Kind of flavor comes, goes, and kind of doesn't leave you parched, but doesn't really have that nice oily feel to it. But so far so good. We'll see how it goes when we get to the first third. But for me right now, just a caramel, just a heavy caramel on the tongue. Steve?
Thank you. I agree. This is a bit of a loose draw. Getting a bit of a creamy type of flavor too, not so much like a cream cheese, but like a creamy caramel or a creamy, some sort of caramel type food. Should be an interesting cigar. We'll see you in a third.
All right, welcome back. We're about 10-15 minutes in, about an inch down. Inch on one side, 3/4 on the other, getting a pretty look on the cigar for me. Well, still loose straw, but not bad. Medium in body, medium in strength for me. Mostly I'm getting that caramel on the front of my tongue. And then it's kind of dying into a creaminess. Not a textured creaminess, more of like a sensation. Like milk or creamed coffee. Not the coffee flavor, just kind of that creaminess that comes with it. Finish for me is standard. It's not real long, not real short. But for me, that's all I'm really picking up right now. I know Wyatt and then give me some other flavors.
Yeah, that smell at the foot of the cigar that I was noting earlier. Steve mentioned Tootsie Roll on just an offhand comment, and I honestly think that's what it is. It's like caramel and sort of a Tootsie Roll mix. It's very good. It's very pleasant. I don't get that much creaminess in this cigar. It's almost all in taste. Not a lot of pepper. You know, this is definitely not a full-bodied cigar. Probably not even medium. I just rate it as a mild, but has a lot of flavor to it. Not that much texture, but it's been mostly interesting for me just trying to figure out what the individual tastes are, and not so much worried about, you know, is this cigar going to be heavy? Is this going to be something I need to eat with? But yeah, so far so good.
I definitely agree. It does have that higher end Tootsie Roll type of creaminess to it, and a bit of that Tootsie Roll flavor. It's very fresh, very crisp tasting cigar. Loose straw. It's burning fairly evenly, but my cigar, but there are a couple points where it's burning a little faster than around on the edges. It'll be interesting to see how this cigar develops as we get further into it.
We'll come back to you. Welcome back to the Padilla Artemis. We're approaching the midpoint, well into the second third. For me, burn hasn't been great, but I haven't had to touch up. Draw is still loose. For me, flavors have shifted a bit. I'm still getting that caramel right on the forefront. I'm still getting those flavors, but that Tootsie Roll that Steve and Wyatt are talking about, I'm not really, I'm picking something similar up. It's very crisp for me. It's very like, I feel like the sensation of fruit snapping, you know, it's fresh, it's just breaking, and that's the sensation I get. The flavor for me is, instead of like a chocolate and or of a Tootsie Roll, it's I see the caramel, but for me it's almost like a juniper berry is what I'm picking up. I could be totally off on that, and if I am, tell me so, but that's what I'm kind of getting, is the caramel, and then it goes into this like a juniper, a crisp juniper berry, but I could be way off. Finish has picked up a little bit for me. It's lasting well into the next draw. The creaminess has died down. I'm not going to get that sensation no more. It's mostly just the caramel, but that crisp juniper berry. Not sweet, but definitely, no, I don't want to say tart because I overuse the word tart, but a crispness that I get from it.
Well, it's a very interesting cigar. I'm picking up some tastes and flavors that I've never had in a cigar. That Tootsie Roll being at the top of the list. So far that's kind of died out, and on the finish I get sort of a peanut butter cup almost taste. For me it's a very long-lasting finish. The cigar itself so far, the construction isn't perfect, but I haven't had to make any touch-ups or anything. Maybe one or two here and there, but other than that the burn's been fine. The cigar itself, it's still got a lot going on, and it's surprisingly, I wouldn't necessarily say complex, but just the tastes are very unique, and it might be at the last third that I really pick up what some of those tastes were, but yeah, so far, good cigar.
My cigar seems to be burning a little bit more unevenly than the first third. I haven't had to touch it up yet, but it's doing that, and flavors have shifted a little bit. I'm not getting the creaminess, as Justin has mentioned before. Getting still a bit of that caramel, but now more like a woodier undernotes. Kind of like caramel and like a charred barrel, like what they mature Scotch in. That's all I have until get down to the final third.
Welcome back. As we get into the final third of this Padilla Artemis. For me, burn throughout the entire cigar has been wonky, I guess is the best word to say. I've had to touch up only once, but never a razor sharp burn. Ash has held on, but because of that touch up, it went black on one side. Not that pretty white ash. Draws picked up a little bit. It's not too tight, not too loose. Flavors for me have kind of shifted to a very one-dimensional wood for me. Just a heavy, woody flavor on the front of my palate, goes into the finish. That's it. It's not a bad flavor. It's just, very one-dimensional for me now. It's got a little spongy, but not harsh or hot. So I think I'll still continue. You could probably get another 30 minutes out of this stick. All in all, it's a decent stick. I do enjoy the Padilla Artemis. If I was going to rate it though, I would probably rate it like an 8.8 or a 9. It's not very complex, but it's a good standalone stick. It's definitely a respectable smoke. I think it would pair well with a beer, a lager, a heavy lager, like an Amber Bock or a Fat Tire or something like that. I think it would pair well with a single malt, almost any of them. Something that's going to carry that wood flavor and the smokiness of a Scotch would pair well with it. But all in all, a decent stick. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would agree. A decent stick, especially once you get past the first third. There's not a lot of complexity, no real flavor changes. The construction, I'm with Justin. It's been a little bit off. I've had a couple of runners, and I've had to touch it up in a few areas, and it is a little spongy. It was pretty firm when we lit it up, but now the cigar is a little spongy, and you can tell that it's been, well, not really tunneling, but at the precipice of tunneling. But yeah, on the scale of 1 to 10, I'd rate this, probably go a little bit lower. I'd say maybe a 7, which is still a solid stick. I mean, I would say 5 out of 10 is still a solid stick. But been a good cigar. I mostly get that, like Justin was saying, very wood, plain, sweet tobacco sort of taste. But nonetheless, a solid cigar. I've enjoyed it. So yeah, so far a good cigar.
Yeah, it's not a bad cigar, not very complex. It has changed from the Tootsie Roll, but that's about it. It's a good cigar. I've had to touch it up twice because I've had some canoeing issues, but hasn't affected the smokability too much or the flavors. I agree, it's a good pairing with like a heavier beer or a Scotch, particularly after maybe lunch. This would be a good cigar, a good early afternoon cigar, maybe even a good golf stick. If I were going to rate this, we're probably all over the place. I would give it an 8. Still a pretty solid stick, not bad for, what were these, about $5, $6 a stick?
Yeah, online. I think in your brick and mortars, I think they're going to be about an $8 to $10 stick. Not 100% sure Padilla even makes them anymore, as I know they went through kind of a blend change and they have the reserves now. But if you can get them, they're not a bad stick.
I might just throw in there too that I think this cigar would taste great with a stronger coffee. They're talking about beer, but I see a stronger coffee. The type of coffee that would wake you up. This would be a good complement to that.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we're all going to end the review here. We might smoke it down a little bit farther, but till next time, smoke them if you got them.